C.S. Lewis once wrote, "There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind." Have you ever felt lost in the wilderness of life, questioning if there's a path forward amidst the challenges? Isaiah 43 verse 19 reveals a profound message. "Behold, I am doing a new thing, now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." This passage assures us that God is not only aware of our struggles but is actively working to guide us through them, promising new beginnings in a way where there seems to be none. Just as God orchestrates the renewal of creation, bringing forth new days, seasons, and life, He is also at work within us, crafting opportunities and pathways through our deserts. Even if you have experienced prolonged spiritual dryness, God is about to renew your life. The journey has been tough, but renewal is imminent. He promises, "I will make a way in the wilderness for you." Many feel isolated and distressed, but this path leads to your purpose. Isaiah 43 verse 19 declares, "Behold, I am doing a new thing." We are drawn to the new, constantly seeking fresh experiences. Yet when God initiates transformation, we often resist, preferring the familiar. C.S. Lewis noted, "There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind." Why do we hesitate in the face of divine change? Fear of the unknown or reluctance to surrender control. Lewis also said, "God whispers in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains." This insight challenges our resistance. Are we like Lewis, resisting circumstances meant to guide us closer to God's plan? Lewis's conversion from atheism to faith illustrates this journey. His struggles were instruments of God's guidance. Are we resisting the very trials meant to draw us nearer to God's purpose? Trust that God knows the way through our wilderness. He walks with us, and every hardship is a step toward His promised renewal and purpose. Are we ready to embrace the unknown, trusting that God's plans are far, far better than what we leave behind? I admit that, like many, I often resist change because I have a specific vision for my life and fear anything that threatens to alter it. When God introduces new elements into my existence, my natural response is to cling to the comfort of the familiar. Are you aware of this unfolding process in your life? Are you noticing God's work? He delights in the new you, for He constantly seeks fresh vessels to perform innovative works in this new era. God is not a mere replicator, but an innovator, always longing to usher in the unexplored and the unprecedented. C.S. Lewis once said, "There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind." How often do we find ourselves clinging to the past, fearing the uncertainty of the future? Yet, Lewis reminds us that God's plans transcend our limited understanding. Reflect on this. What if the changes you resist are the very pathways to greater joy and purpose? Can you trust in the unseen, believing that God's innovations are for your ultimate good? The journey of faith is not about dwelling in what was, but about embracing the new possibilities God sets before us. Just as Lewis emphasized, it's not our task to recreate the past, but to welcome the divine innovations that lead us toward a more profound fulfillment. Take, for example, an episode from last year. God sealed a door and, despite my incessant pleas, chose not to reopen it. Instead of accepting and moving forward down the hallway towards the uncertain in search of a new passage He might have revealed, I stood in front of that old door, stubbornly insisting. However, I realized that it is essential to embrace the new things that God is orchestrating, to leave behind the missed chances, and prepare for the new ones to come. I don't know about you, but I am ready for the new. Here is my question for you. What new thing is God trying to unveil in your life? What is this novelty that God is trying to unfold in your existence? What is this reality that you choose to ignore, but deep down you know that God has called you to a new purpose? What could it be? Many of you harbor a dream divinely inspired, yet it lies neglected, yearning for your attention. When God embarks on the creation of something new, stepping into the unknown becomes essential, even if it initially feels uncomfortable, intimidating, and unpleasant. We often cling to our familiar lives, finding solace in what we know. However, to fully experience the wonders God intends for us, we must leave the past behind and trust in His plan. As C.S. Lewis insightfully remarked, "You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending." This wisdom reminds us that God calls us to a new chapter, urging us to overcome our fears. Fear, after all, is the main adversary of the new and a tool used by Satan to obstruct our experience of divine magnificence. Fear paralyzes, making us retreat from God's call, hindering us from enjoying new graces. Imagine the transformative power you could unlock by trusting God fully. What dreams have you left unattended because of fear? How many blessings have you missed by clinging to the past? Remember, fear can prevent God from manifesting the new in you and through you for the benefit of others. Now is the time to trust, embrace the unknown, and let God work His wonders in your life. Reflect on the life of Abraham, a man whose unwavering faith led him to embrace a monumental transformation. God commanded him to leave behind his homeland, family, and all that was familiar to embark on a journey into the unknown. In choosing to trust God's plan over his own comfort, Abraham not only redefined his own destiny but also laid the foundation for the nation of Israel and the messianic lineage leading to Jesus. This profound act of faith resonates deeply with the teachings of C.S. Lewis, who once wrote, "Faith is the art of holding on to things your reason has once accepted. In spite of your changing moods, how often do we find ourselves clinging to the familiar out of fear of the unknown?" Consider the disciples Peter, John, and James, who abandoned their lives as fishermen to follow Jesus. They embraced the new path God set before them, becoming instrumental in establishing the early church and leading countless souls to salvation. Their stories challenge us to ponder: are we willing to forsake our comfort zones and trust in God's greater plan for our lives? C.S. Lewis also remarked, "We are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us, we are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be." These words invite us to examine our own lives. Are we afraid of the pain that might come with change? Do we hesitate to step into God's calling due to the fear of uncertainty? In every step of their journeys, Abraham and the disciples exemplify a profound truth. Faith requires courage, a willingness to venture into the unknown, and an unwavering trust in God's promises. Their legacies remind us that embracing God's plan, despite our fears, can lead to extraordinary outcomes and transformative blessings. The adversary, Satan, often tries to intimidate us to prevent us from becoming who God has called us to be. He whispers lies like, "You are too old, you are too young, you are not capable enough, you are not attractive enough, you are not worthy, you cannot do it, and your faith is insufficient." These deceptions manifest fear in various ways within us. Many of us fear failure, and Satan delights in exploiting this fear. But what is our response to such deception? As Christians, we believe that in Christ all things are possible. It is not about our strength, but Christ's strength within us. When we choose to trust in God and embark on new beginnings, we must be prepared for challenges. New beginnings with God often come with trials and periods of preparation, because we are not always ready for the missions He assigns us. God molds and tests us until we are fit, often using the desert as His training ground. Therefore, while we may not be sufficient on our own, Jesus is always sufficient. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "God allows us to experience the low points of life in order to teach us lessons that we could learn in no other way." This profound insight reminds us that our struggles are not in vain, they are part of God's divine preparation. Have you ever pondered why you face certain trials? Could it be that these challenges are shaping you for the extraordinary purpose God has planned for you? Fear not, for this is the message I have for you. Do not let fear prevent you from experiencing the new thing that God is bringing into your life. Do not let fear obstruct your path. Reflect on Lewis's words, "You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream." Listen well, begin what God has called you to. Take the first steps in what you were created for, engage in what you were prepared for, embark on what God has specially planned for you. Start now. 3 words that can transform your life. Start now. There will never be a perfect moment or circumstance to begin the change you desire. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So take that step today and trust that God will guide you every step of the way. David, the youngest of 8 brothers, seemed insignificant in the eyes of many. However, God had grand plans for him, anointing him as the future king of Israel. But David's coronation was not immediate. He faced a long period of trials and maturation, which lasted about 15 years before ascending to the throne. Like David, other biblical figures such as Moses, John the Baptist, and even Jesus went through phases of testing and refinement. After his baptism, Jesus withdrew to the desert, where he spent 40 days in intense reflection before beginning his ministry. Ecclesiastes, written by Solomon, offers us this wisdom: if you wait for perfect conditions, you will never do anything. How many times have we heard someone say, "when things calm down"? But the truth is that life rarely offers calm. It is a constant learning process to live amid chaos. Therefore, whatever you envisioned, commence immediately. The perfect moment is a mirage. Seize the new that God is unveiling today. Embrace today's opportunities, for His mercy is refreshed with each dawn. This isn't a mere repetition of past mercies, but a chance for a fresh start. Reflect on how God liberated the Israelites from the bonds of Egypt, leading them not just out of slavery but into the unknown, towards a promised land. Consider why He chose the longer, arduous path through the wilderness. It was to forge their character, to prepare them for the blessings ahead. Yet, in the crucible of the desert, they faltered. Why did they cling to the familiar chains of their past? Instead of enduring with faith, they yearned for the comfort of captivity, grumbling and doubting God's plan. Their lack of trust led them to wander aimlessly for 40 years. C.S. Lewis once pondered, hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Could it be that your current trials are shaping you for a greater purpose? Have you, like the Israelites, found it difficult to let go of the past and trust in the new path God is carving for you? Embrace the discomfort, for it is in these moments that God's grace becomes most apparent. Lewis also reminds us that there are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. What if the pain you're experiencing is God's way of leading you to something greater? As you step forward, consider the Israelites' journey and choose faith over fear, trusting that God's plans, though sometimes perplexing, are always for your ultimate good. When we face disappointments, when our dreams fail, it is easy to settle and believe that we have reached our limit. But God challenges us in Isaiah, "I am doing a new thing, now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it?" God is about to inaugurate a new chapter in your life. He did not create us to remain stagnant. He has new opportunities, new relationships, and new blessings reserved for us. Do not let this be your story. I have acted like the Israelites myself, but I am learning to trust God and follow Him, even if it means venturing beyond my comfort zone. I am striving to let go of my own plans and embrace His, for God's plans are infinitely superior to ours. If you feel that God is bringing something new into your life, do not resist like the Israelites, but embrace it with open arms. Leave the past behind and be ready for the tests and preparation that will come. If we trust Him, He will elevate us to higher levels and perform wonders through us. Today marks the beginning of a renewed era. The chains that once limited you are dissolving. What imprisoned you is fading away. Obstacles may seem insurmountable. Perhaps you do not see the way to realize your dreams. You feel confined, as if you are imprisoned, limited by your surroundings. But God is proclaiming something new. I am inaugurating a new beginning. I am creating streams in the wasteland, I am turning barren ground into fertile fields. It is time to align with God. Yes, Lord, this resonates with me today. I accept this in my spirit. I am preparing for the new. Lord, surprise me with your generosity. Transform this adversity. Manifest your magnificence in my existence. Maybe you will witness this novelty tomorrow. Perhaps you will achieve the breakthrough this week. You might get that scholarship this month. Maybe you will witness your healing, your breakthrough, your prosperity this year. When God promises something new, it means it will not be a repetition of the past, it will be something distinct. The new may surprise you, it may not unfold as you imagined. Stay open to how God will operate. Do not restrict Him to a single possibility. Often what we desire is just a shadow of what God has planned for us. God's plan for your life is grand and will exceed all expectations. Trust in the way He will lead things. If we hold too tightly to our own expectations, we may miss the new blessings God is bestowing upon us. C.S. Lewis once reflected, there are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. God often surprises us by manifesting His plans in unexpected ways, through unusual people, and in circumstances beyond our imagination. At this very moment, God may be working in a new way in your life, and you might not yet recognize it. He could be presenting you with a new opportunity, but you hesitate because it doesn't align with your previous expectations. He is sending individuals who will bring divine connections, yet they may not fit your preconceived notions. Can you let go of your old perceptions and embrace the unknown? The new that God brings may not resemble what you envisioned, but does it not hold the promise of something greater? Reflect on this. Are you confining your future possibilities to your past experiences? Remember, as Lewis suggested, you can't go back and change the beginning. But you can start where you are and change the ending. God's most magnificent acts are not confined to the past, but are waiting in the future. Embrace the new with faith and trust in His divine plan.